Hello, welcome to Team Take. My name's Sam, and today we're going to be reviewing Zack Snyder's Justice League, so let's get straight to it. Okay, so Zack Snyder's Justice League is of course Zack Snyder's definitive director's cut of Justice League, but in a way it's much more than that, because obviously we were meant to get a film way more like this back in 2017, but Zack Snyder had to step away from the Justice League project due to the sad passing of his daughter. Joss Whedon came in, messed it all up, and now we have two very, very different films that follow a similar plot, well, kind of the same plot, but are very, very different in how they do that. So basically the overall simplification of the plot is that Batman recruits a team of heroes to fight against a coming evil in the form of Steppenwolf. And yeah, I watched it last night, 4 hours long, so it's the longest film I've ever watched, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. I've kind of always, I don't know, when Batman vs Superman first came out, I watched it, didn't really like it, just didn't like it. I liked Man of Steel though, but I didn't like Batman vs Superman, and then I, last summer, bought the Ultimate Edition on Blu-ray for like £2, thought I'd watch it, give it a go, and I really enjoyed the Ultimate Edition. There's lots of flaws with it, and I've kind of, you know, even more recently I've kind of looked into those a little bit more, and so there's definitely quite a lot wrong with that film, but I kind of like it. I've only seen it once. I was going to rewatch it before I watched Zack Snyder's Justice League, but I didn't have time because 3 hours is also quite a long time for a film. But I have seen that as well, and I was looking forward to Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I'm glad I looked forward to it because it was worth waiting, and I really enjoyed it. I'm not one of these massive Snyder nuts that are kind of insanely passionate about his work and find him the best director of all time. I don't at all, really. I haven't seen all his films, but I think they're the ones I have seen, they're alright. But I think this is a really good Justice League film. You know, finally, Zack Snyder was able to put together his vision for this group, and I think it works really well. For starters, what's improved massively is the villain as well, Steppenwolf. In the 2017 Justice League, he is just a bad guy who wants to... I vaguely think it's the same. Doesn't he want to just like destroy the world or something? I don't know. He wants to do something boring like that. I can't really remember. Not an interesting villain. There's no tension throughout the entire film because it just has this comedic, weird Joss Whedon vibe to it, and so you know that everything's going to be fine. And Steppenwolf was not an interesting character. This time, however, he actually has motivations. He is, as you can see from the trailers, he is trying to prove his worth to Darkseid, so he has more motivation behind what he's doing, and he definitely has more character, and it makes him a much more interesting villain than what we had before, which was just weird looking bad guy. He's still weird looking, but in a better way. Secondly, to do with characters, Cyborg is so much better. If you've seen any other reviews, which I'm sure you have, everybody's mentioning how much more Cyborg we get, and it's so good that we get that because he's such a crucial role in the film. He's so important, and in a way his character is the one that has the most emotion, or the one that we see the most emotion from. You know, we see a lot of his backstory, we even see inside his head and what it's like to do what he does and be connected to everything. We see all that, and it creates this quite emotional story and character for Cyborg, which we just didn't get in the original film. The Flash is better as well. He's still a bit weird. He's not going to please everyone because he's not really like traditional Barry Allen. I grew up on, a few years ago I watched the Flash series. I think I watched like the first 3.5 seasons, then gave up, but I was used to that Flash, and so seeing this version is quite weird, but I found him funny. I'm not that attached to the character that I'm offended by how he's portrayed. I think he's quite funny, and I think it kind of worked. And speaking of funny, Batman is not the butt of jokes all the time this time. He's not like in 2017 Justice League where he's just there to make us laugh a little bit because he's the old guy. You know, I think in this film I still wasn't amazed by Batman. I still think, even though Batman vs Superman is probably a worse film story-wise, there's better Batman stuff in that, even though he's not a very good guy in that film, or at least he's not doing very good things, and he does kill people quite a lot in that film. We have more character and story and drive from him in that film, whereas this film he's kind of just a little bit bland, which is a shame. There's some cool stuff that he does, you know, towards the end he does get to use his grappling hook, zip wire, whatever it is, I don't know, and there's some cool scenes. You know, there's the one from the original Justice League goes with Flash, and the Flash is like, oh, what's your superpower? And he's like, I'm rich. You know, there's the odd thing like that, but I still think that if you're going to go into this film expecting loads of cool Batman stuff, don't. It's decent, it's alright, but Batman isn't the best in this film. I have to admit though, I love his suit. It's great. I think it's obviously more comic accurate, and that really works. The other characters, Aquaman, meh, I don't know. I don't find him that interesting. He's got an alright, storyline. He's kind of half Atlantean, half human, and so he's not like interested in Atlantis or anything like that. And I guess that if you watch the Aquaman film, you're more attached to that character. In this, he's just bland. I'm not bothered by him at all. It's kind of the same with Wonder Woman. I've seen the Wonder Woman film, and so we know a little bit more about her character and her backstory, but I still find her a bit bland. What really worked for this film is Cyborg, and Flash is pretty good as well. Speaking of Flash, he does something really crucial at the end, same as Cyborg, and there's a lot more tension built at the end. In the original Justice League, there's not really much tension. You know they're going to win. And most superhero films, the good guys are going to win. But in this one, there was a lot of tension, and there were times when you were like, oh God, come on, quick. You were waiting for something to go wrong, because there was this tension built and this coming sort of doom built throughout the entire film. And the Flash plays a more crucial part than just pushing a truck out of the way like he did in 2017 Justice League, and so that worked really well. The whole sort of ending of this film was really, really good, and by ending I mean the stuff before the epilogue. The epilogue is kind of random, pretty cool. I enjoyed it, but it doesn't necessarily need to be there. In fact, it doesn't really. It's more of like a fan service, a cool sort of this is what could have been. Let's hint at some sequels of what we might have got if Zack Snyder was still doing the Justice League storyline. But I liked it enough. A thing that I didn't like was the score as much. It was fine at points, and there was some alright song choices at times that kind of worked, but I missed Hans Zimmer. Obviously, every now and then we'll get some of the themes that he created, like the Man of Steel one, and every now and then we'll get the Wonder Woman theme. But a lot of the time it wasn't there, because obviously he didn't do the music for the film, and it didn't. I feel like if he had done the music, I don't know, the film would have appealed to me even more. Like when Wonder Woman's fighting, there's like this wailing choir every now and then. It's like meant to be like wild, and I didn't like that. I missed the Hans Zimmer theme, and what annoyed me was that every now and then you'd hear it, but then there were other times when you wouldn't. And so I'm thinking, were they only allowed to use it at certain points because Hans Zimmer made it, or like how does this work? Because it would have been better off used more than it was, because we just ended up having these weird themes that we hadn't had before that didn't always work, and that was one criticism of the film, as well as the CGI. Sometimes the CGI was bad. There were times when it was really good, especially towards the end, but there were also times when it was really dodgy. And I have a feeling that maybe this is because I think they had like a $10 million budget to finish the Snyder Cut film, and so I guess they kind of had to spread it out across the 4 hours and dedicate their budget more to certain more important elements than just the odd shot of the street. But there were times when I was like, is that a CGI street? Because it looks like it. And there's a scene in the epilogue where it's so obviously CGI, it's bad. Like green screen, it's just obvious. And there were times like that, but then the whole film has this kind of tone and theme to it, and so it does all mesh together pretty well, but the CGI wasn't brilliant at times. So this might have been a bit of a messy review, but I just kind of wanted to get out my sporadic thoughts about the film. Obviously I have got some stuff to say about spoilery elements, but I won't do that. I want to do sort of a non-spoiler review for those of you who haven't seen it, because in the UK it's only on like Now TV and Sky, so if you don't have that you probably won't have seen it, and so I just thought I'd do that. And it may be in the future that I talk about it with spoilers, but for now I'm just doing this non-spoiler video. And my rating for Zack Snyder's Justice League, or the Snyder Cut, would be a 3.5 out of 5. I enjoyed it. There's some flaws. It's not a perfect film, but I did really like it. I did have a good time watching it, and it was just a cool superhero group movie that eventually I might rewatch. Not anytime soon because of its massive length, but it was good. So yeah, that's what I think of Zack Snyder's Justice League.